from self-sufficiency from dependency to self-sufficiency and getting them off welfare. Yet we have seen at the bottom folks increasing welfare. There has been a profound connect from the top to the bottom. So we need a leader of DHS that is actually capable, not an early childhood advocate, not a mental health advocate, but someone who comes in and is able to say, division by division, bureau by bureau, are you working the plan, and competent to be able to evaluate and determine that. Second, after we address the leadership structure, we have to address improving day-to-day things like training and case management. I don't want to get too deep into the woods. Are you having fun, Doug? We're getting stuff pop on the screen here. Thank you. Can I get my thing back? Okay. So we have to address day-to-day issues like training, burnout. You know, for all the criticism that workers at DHS get, the truth of the matter is a lot of these things are not creations of their own design. They didn't create the situation where you got a 3-year-old getting hot scalding water poured on them by a parent who's mad at them because they cried too loud. You know, they're not the ones who kill those little kids every 2 or 3 years that then cause us to completely shift policy. So we have to address the issue of training, case management, but also issues like burnout by making sure that they have the adequate resources to stay reduced. Caseload issues. We have to address those things. And one of the ways we can reduce caseloads is doing things like firing those 150, those 6-figure consultants that are on the payrolls doing shelfware at places like DHS and putting the money into the troops on the ground. So we go back to here. The second thing we have to do is we have to address the welfare culture. Now, every Republican out there, just like every Democrat out there, has pretty much advocated for changing the reimbursement formulas, which increase compensation for something like Medicaid. The problem becomes, if you get more Medicaid money from the feds, it costs you more money. Now, this is where we have to address the welfare culture, both in terms of the recipients and in terms of the administration. One of the reasons why we have ignored the abuses of welfare, the abuses of government funding on areas like education for illegals, is because we see this as free federal money, even if we're required to have a match. So if we grow the number of people on food stamps, that's federal money coming into our state. If we ignore the illegal status of individuals, that brings more money into our state. Now, I don't know how many of you remember when Joe Wilson called Obama a liar, but he called him a liar because Obama said, we're not going to be providing services to illegals. Well, it's against the law. You're not supposed to. It is a violation of the law. But the reason we have state bureaucrats that ignore the law is because they see it as bringing more money into our state. So we have to address the welfare mentality of leadership and the bureaucracy. And as we address that and help them realize that there aren't multiple pots of money. There's not state money, federal money, property tax, sales tax money, but there's tax dollars that pay all this. We then change the mindset. So we're not seeking increases in food stamp recipients and Medicaid recipients. We're seeking to move these people to self-sufficiency. And as we do that, we change the culture. So for example, if you're on welfare, you're not only gonna tell us who the daddy is and be drug tested, but if you're on welfare, you're gonna work. You're gonna volunteer at a school or work at a nonprofit or haul away dead branches. This is something that Branstad and the Republicans ought mandate, as opposed to just letting welfare be seen as a way to bring federal funds in, as they did before. With Medicaid, we need to have strong case management. You don't get to just sit down and eat more and more Twinkies while we get more and more federal Medicaid money. We're going to have health plans. If you smoke, we're not just going to buy you bigger oxygen tanks. We're going to move you into smoking cessation programs. If you're obese, we're going to move you into obesity weight reduction programs, health and nutrition programs, so as to reduce your dependency on the government. Now, if you can't put down the Twinkie, don't come to us and ask for us to pay for your diabetes. So I'm not saying that they ought to just take and kick folks off. But they ought to remember, let's go back. This is where, under the overarching principle, government must be braced by personal responsibility. So, when we talk about spending $3 billion on Medicaid, we have to talk about, where are you going to get medical treatment? What are you doing? All those issues need to be addressed. And to his credit, when I had a chance on October 28th to talk to former Governor Branstad out of his office, he asked about Medicaid, and I said, be glad to talk to you about it, because we actually have spent quite a bit of time coming up for a solution to that. Have to address this. Have to address that. You cannot ignore fixing DHS. Now, the other thing we can't ignore, is justice reform. Now, there's a lot of things we ought to address in terms of justice reform, fixing the Missouri Plan, Court of Arbitration, moving to an inquisitorial system, and that's not happening. But there are a couple of core areas we can address. One of the areas is creating a restitution-based justice system where inmates, it's not just seen as, are the unions and folks from Illinois going to build the prisons, or the master builders are going to build prison. This is where we have to now start talking about a restitution-based justice system where inmates pay back their victims' society and they do things like work. This is something we can do right away. Don't squander all those resources. Create a constructive plan to begin putting these individuals to work, whether it's cleaning waterways, planting trees, doing the county roads, or working on prison construction. Prison technology is old technology. The fellas can put down a brick, put mortar on, put down a brick. Privatize the lock and key. Let them build the prison. Let them work on the county roads. Let them clean the waterways and haul away and plant trees. Let them build the bike and walking trails. Do not see these as government's obligation to stimulate the economy. You're supposed to be Republicans. Act like it at least once, okay? Act like it at least once. You got the power now. Don't view the government. See, when you have, I debated Chris Rance. He's sharp, bright. We debated this issue. Chris said, well, that county roads is economic development. Listen, the government ought not be creating work. If you create work for labor, or you create work for contractors using tax dollars, it's not the proper role of government. The proper role of government is doing what they're supposed to do. If we need roads, we build roads where we build them most efficiently. Highways, absolutely we contract with people because they build them best. Things like county roads, where these are boondoggles in many instances, inmates can do them. And this isn't unprecedented. When Cherokee was hit by tornadoes, when Carroll was hit by ice storms, they brought the fellas in from Rockwell City, the prison over there in Calhoun County. They came in, they cleaned up, the fellas loved it, the communities loved it. It was a win-win-win. Put inmates to work. And let's look at the numbers in terms of, okay, here are the numbers we're looking at. Okay, we've got a lot of folks